quite a mission, right, George?
We just had an election where internet was switched off, where the Electoral Commission did not have to collect results from anywhere, but were ordered to just. I hope it can guide you to ask more realistic questions in regards to Uganda, because you seem to suggest that Uganda is a democracy, which is not the case.
Quite a mission, right, George? It can be quite a mission, right, George?
Yeah, true.
It can be quite a mission, right, George?
Yeah, true. Yeah, true.
It can be quite a mission, right, George?
Yeah, true.
It can be quite a mission, right, George?
Yeah, true.
It can be quite a mission, right, George?
Yeah, true.
The people who were fighting to unseat him democratically in the just ended elections in the country. As you are aware, his national resistance movement retained a majority in the parliament of Uganda. Now, what exactly has changed in recent years since the areas of economic revitalization that he promised he could do for the people of Uganda?
It's well, that is what is being communicated out there, that General Museveni won a democratic election, which in my view and in the view of most Ugandans is laughable. I will also inform you that we just had an election a few months ago in a place called Kayunga, where the chairman of a district was murdered. So we went for an election and the regime's candidate was defeated flat. But a day before, General Museveni had showed up, having put me under house arrest to block me from campaigning for my party's candidate. However, his party's candidate was defeated square and flat. But like I said, General Museveni had announced a day before that regardless of what the people vote for, his candidate would be announced. And that exactly was the case. So, for you to mention that General Museveni has once again won an election is laughable. But I will, understand, because you don't live in Uganda. I just want to use every opportunity that I get.
We read about things happening from Uganda.
I'm sorry?
We read about things happening from Uganda.
Well, it depends on who writes them, because everything that happens in Uganda is public knowledge. You understand? Yeah. However, I will continue to also mention that even when one talks about the economy in Uganda, the economy is in the hands of the few, the relatives and cronies of General Museveni, at the cost of the majority of the people in Uganda. As we speak today, the people of Uganda, majority of them cannot afford a bar of soap because it has hit an astronomical, rate. People cannot afford basic utilities in their homes. That is the country where we are. Anybody coming from a country, for example, Zimbabwe, is going to come and tell you, depending on which side of the terrain they are, if it's from the eating and oppressing team, they are certainly going to paint a rosy picture. But if you find an ordinary Ugandan or an ordinary member of a country like Zimbabwe and so on and so forth, it's going to be a terrible picture. So this is exactly what I'm painting for you. I want to take it that I'm using this opportunity to highlight the plight of the people of Uganda.
We're going to reach to that. You don't need to. We have more time to talk about it. You're speaking about corruption, and in the president's State of the Nation address a few years ago, President Mozambique called corruption public enemy number one. Meaning it is an obstacle to Uganda's development. To tackle endemic corruption, the government has passed a variety of laws, according to him, including the Inspectorate of Government Act 2002, the Leadership Code Act 2002, the Public Finance and Accountability Act 2003, the Public Procurement and Disposal of Public Assets Act 2003, the Access to Information Act 2005, the Audit Act 2008, the Anti-Corruption Act 2009, the Whistleblowers Protection Act 2010, and the Public Financial Management Act 2013. Bobi Wine, do you want us to believe that all these instruments are not making any positive impact in Uganda?
We have more than the ones you have mentioned, and they are making zero impact. Just like we had the most beautiful and promising constitution, but like I said, the law in Uganda is nothing more than the paper on which it is written. You have mentioned that General Museveni used rose and sweet words, mentioning that corruption is public enemy number one. But this is the same president that only promotes and rewards corruption. Ministers like Mike Mukula, ministers like Jim Muhwezi, and many others that were indicted in corruption scandals, that stole money that was meant for HIV patients and drugs, were even arrested. But General Museveni rewarded them by promoting them. No country rewards corruption like Uganda. Forget what Museveni says. That is hypocritical. Just recently, when the Inspector General of Government mentioned to General Museveni that the best way to fight corruption is to tap into to use lifestyle audits, because in Uganda we have people that have only worked for a few months but are owning unbelievable amounts of money and are living lavish lifestyles. It is General Museveni that warned the Inspector General of Government, and he said that the Inspector General of Government, should not disturb the corrupt officials, because after they steal the money, they invest it in Uganda. So because they steal public funds and invest in Uganda and not abroad, that is enough to set them free. That is General Museveni for you. That is why I am telling you that it is not what General Museveni says that matters, but what he does. What he actually does is reward corruption. Every corruption scandal is investigated up to the has at least been indicted or cited or mentioned in a corruption scandal. Interestingly, of government mentioned it to General Museveni that the big fish in corruption are always hiding behind the president. That is the situation in Uganda under General Museveni. But one will be quick to understand it, because corruption is the currency that General Museveni uses. It is corruption that is fueling his dictatorship. Like many other dictatorships in Africa and the world over, corruption is a very strong pillar in the regime of General Museveni and other dictatorships.
Afrobarometer survey recent findings showed that a major or majority of Ugandans, such as you, Bobi Wine, think that corruption is getting worse in your country, and that your government is doing a bad job of fighting the corruption in Uganda. Most say ordinary people rate. Were you to be the president of Uganda, what do you think your government could do to change the narratives of corruption within Uganda?
Empower institutions. Empower institutions. Follow the law. We have good laws. If they were followed, corruption would be history. And the political will to fight corruption. There is no political will to fight corruption in Uganda. But if there was a political will to fight corruption, corruption would be history. If those institutions were independent and empowered and not interfered with, there would be no corruption in Uganda. But like I said, corruption is a tool that General Museveni uses. That's why he has no will whatsoever to fight corruption.
Thank you very much. We've talked about some of the things about the president. Let me take you to business within Uganda, because if you become the president, these are some of the areas you want to talk about. You want to see how you're going to grow the business community. Ugandans should be into business. Now, let's look at these statistics from the Bank of Uganda that talked about business confidence in Uganda increased to 57.6% points in March from 54.06 points in February of 2022. It is the highest Bobi Wine reading since February of 2022 or 2020, by the way. What can you say about such an imperative data coming from Uganda? Is it that the case on ground is something worse than what other people are saying?
I disagree with those statistics. I completely disagree. Just like to the international community, a rosy picture is going to be painted. Any regime apologist in Uganda is going to tell you that Uganda is safe, that Uganda is secure, but each one of them is moving with gunmen, you know, guarding them. So security is only for those powerful and mighty. In the same case, you cannot tell me that business confidence is improving when corruption is through the roof. You know, any area, any place in the world that is infested with corruption will certainly have no, business confidence whatsoever. Of course, some investors are protected. You must have seen it recently in the news that it is the Uganda People's Defense Forces that is guarding the businesses of the Chinese in Uganda. But I love to believe that Ugandans should have confidence in Uganda. So whatever those statistics are intended to promote, I disagree with them because the reality is completely different on the ground.
Are there more investments coming in Uganda, looking at the way things, like you said, the government is not doing what she needs to do? Are there trust or investments are coming within the country, or it has got to a point where there are more people afraid to invest within Uganda?
Well, I would say more people are afraid to invest in Uganda. But in every system, there are those that benefit unjustly from the system. I will mention to you that just a while ago, and that's the brand new scandal today in Uganda, that all the coffee of Ugandans is being sold to just one person. Imagine just one foreigner taking a tender to be the only one to trade in coffee in Uganda. So certainly that foreigner is going to be excited because they are making a kill. But I am here to speak for the Ugandans who want to own their country, who want to have confidence to do business in their country.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so someone listening, some supporters of the government listening to you might disagree and say you are creating a picture to make the government look ugly. It is not what's happening in the country.
Well, I am in Uganda today, and we have laws. We have laws against economic saboteurs. If you know that I'm saying the truth, and therefore they cannot challenge me because they know that they are thieves, and that they know that I'm exposing them and I'm exposing their rot.
What about the job creation? Like some other elections, the president promised to create more jobs for the people in Uganda. Are there more factories for ordinary people in terms of employment?
I will tell you first of all that Ugandans have been over time credited as the most enterprising people, in the world. However, sadly, majority of businesses do not live to see their first anniversary. So while we are very creative, while we are very enterprising, all opportunity for Ugandans is squashed. The taxation is through the roof. And like I said, the corruption makes it even harder to do business here, to create jobs here. And here we had arts and sports as a very easy way through. However, ever since my rise, the arts have been attacked vehemently, and there's a record low in the arts, and so is in the sports. Agriculture was the backbone of our economy. Agriculture has been, limited to only a few, and just quoted coffee for you among so many. So that's the situation in Uganda, in my view. And when I speak for the common people, because that is where I spend most of my time, and that is where our party focuses most.
Solving the bread and butter issues is still a challenge within the country. What roles can opposition leaders like you play to buttress the government's efforts?
I'll tell you that I am not only speaking for the opposition, I'm speaking for common Ugandans, even those that are apolitical. And the solution of Uganda is not going to come from the opposition or from government or from any politician whatsoever. It is going to take the people of Uganda themselves. This is what has happened in all countries that have been able to liberate their countries. We do not have a government in Uganda. We have a kleptocracy. We have a gang of bandits that took over our country and are making sure they milk and loot to the last until they are kicked out. That is the situation in Uganda. So it is not a government-opposition relationship. It is a citizen bandit situation. Uganda is under occupation by people that don't give a damn whatsoever about Uganda.
Let's move to health. Let's look at how I said, like in Uganda, the health delivery system. Uganda has one of the worst healthcare records in the world, according to the statistics by the World Health Organization. The country is ranked 186 out of 191 nations. In Uganda, 1 in every 200 births ends the mother's life. Around 1 million people are living with HIV, and although malaria accounts for 14% of all deaths, less than 10% of children fever, then 5 are sleeping under insecticide-treated nets. What role is the parliament playing here, or is it all about politicians seated and looking at the president to tackle this issue?
I am struggling to find words to describe our healthcare system. But I'm glad that you have some slight information about our healthcare system. Now, I was getting mad at you because you seemed to be painting a rosy picture that whatever record, whatever information the Ugandan so-called government puts out to the world about Uganda is intending to paint a rosy picture. However, the records and the details that you're reading about our healthcare system is meant to paint a rosy picture, and that is a rosy picture. You think it's too bad? No, you've not had the reality. I will tell you that every day, more than 20 women die in Uganda giving birth. Not every month, not every week, but every day. I will also tell you that every day, more than 300 children under the age of 5 die in Uganda. Not every week, but every day. It is equivalent to a full jumbo jet plane crashing with 300 babies, 300 Ugandan babies, every day. That is the situation in Uganda. What kills these children? There's no paracetamol. What kills the women? There's no gloves. There's no electricity in the hospital. The nurses or the doctors are not on duty because they have gone their 4th month without pay and all that. And I will remind you that Uganda, among many countries, is a signatory to the Abuja Declaration that was encouraging countries to only up the healthcare budget, and it will solve the maternal deaths. But in Uganda, it is more important to the regime to sustain the rule of General Museveni than caring for its people. I could spend a whole day on the healthcare system. even where, you know, even where ordinary citizens are trying to help, you know, they are stopped by the regime. I will also inform you that recently, just last year, the Museveni government here in Uganda offered 32 hectares of prime land in Uganda to an investor, a foreign investor, and they offered $378 million. I'll say this again for clarity. The Museveni government gave $378 million to a foreign investor. That's equivalent to 1.3 trillion Ugandan shillings to build a specialized hospital. That is what they promised. I'll tell you that more than a year later, not even a foundation has been put. Now, this is the same person, this is the same foreigner that has been awarded the rights to be the sole trader of coffee. Now, I will tell you that when I was young, Uganda was the second largest exporter of coffee after Brazil in the world. Coffee is what took me to school and many people in my generation. Today, Ugandans are being blocked from trading in coffee and given to this very one so-called investor that was given $378 million to build a specialized hospital, which has not been built now. Having told you that, I will conclude by again saying that we do not have a government, we have a kleptocracy. We have bandits that took over our country and they robbed and looted our country for 36 years and counting. That's the situation in Uganda.
You, as one of the lead players of the political activities within Uganda, have you, as a major politician in your country, written the government outlining solutions to some of the problems, particularly in the health sector or some other areas?
Certainly, and it is not just me. I will tell you that what I am saying, many people have said, many other leaders have said. Some have been compromised, bought off and silenced. Some have been intimidated, harassed. Many ran into exile. Many have been taken to prison. And yes, very many of them have been killed, including religious leaders. So I am only repeating what has been said over the years. The solutions are there. First, there should be a government that is accountable to the people. A government that is scared to steal because the law will go after them. We have always been advocating for, empowering institutions for as long as we have one individual that is all powerful. He or she and their family and cronies are going to own the country and are going to be answerable to nobody. We want to have a government where the citizens are the true masters and those that are in government are servants and therefore serving the people. That is how we're going to solve the corruption problem. That is how we're going to solve the dictatorship problem. That is how we're going to
approach these complex issues of Uganda?
There are very many issues, and we outlined our basic five. We put this fist up there. The fist has 5 fingers, and these are the most pressuring of our problems. Number 1 is healthcare, and we have suggested that it's as simple as adopting the proposals that other countries like Rwanda, like Kenya, have adopted, and we are shipping our sick people to Kenya, countries that we were, because they adopted these resolutions, up the healthcare budget so that the doctors, nurses, and medical workers can be well paid. Today, we are having striking medical workers who worked during COVID. They have not been paid. So focus on healthcare. Make sure our people are well. Focus on education. We suggested many things in education, but precisely we talked about the 3 A's, and that is the arts, the athletics, and academics, so that we are not only building or educating or preparing job seekers, but we are preparing job creators as well. We talked about improving the respect of human rights and the rule of law, because that way we are all going to be answerable to the law. That way the rights of our people to speak out and criticize corrupt leaders is going to be protected. If we have that, no journalist or media personality is going to be harassed for exposing corruption, for exposing government fraud, for exposing misrule. We have made various proposals on agriculture. Today, we have unemployment, and yet the agriculture sector, before it was hijacked by a few, used to, maintain our people. I will tell you that many Ugandans actually did not get a formal education, but they were able to sustain their people. Now agriculture has gone to the dogs. The cooperative unions that used to bring farmers together, help them in terms of advising and extending loan facilities to them, are no more. Things like that. Solving Uganda's problem is not rocket science, because it has been suggested a great deal. But most importantly, involve the people. Let the people of Uganda be part of nation developing. That, among many other solutions, will fix Uganda's problem.
How do you intend to strengthen the judicial system of Uganda? Is it something that Ugandans can trust in?
Well, I will say it relentlessly that the judicial system, just like the legislature, is a mockery and a shadow of itself. I ran for president, and I believe that I defeated General Museveni. However, he announced himself winner. We went to the Supreme Court to challenge the election results. But guess what? The Chief Justice himself acted outside the law, rejected our evidence, conducted themselves in a very contemptible manner, to the extent that even another justice of the Supreme Court had to come out and lambast the Chief Justice, who had actually stolen the file of his fellow justice of the Supreme Court. Now, that is a judicial system in Uganda. I am talking about the Chief Justice, and that should trickle down and show you where we are, As of now, in Uganda today, the military court-martial is stronger than the entire judicial system. When anybody is arrested wearing a t-shirt that has my image, they are not taken to the civilian court. They are taken to the military court. And that explains why many of my comrades, of the supporters that worked with, and even elected leaders, are still rotting in prison, because they were presented to the military court. The military court is the court now. It replaced the civilian court. That is the judicial situation in Uganda today.
Let me come in with this question, because it reminds me about during the just ended election in Uganda, several of your members were rounded up and sent to jail. Were you able to secure their release? Because they were being arrested on multiple occasions. When you go, so you see this person is arrested, supporter of Bobi Wine. Have you been able to secure the release of your supporters, or do we still have people in prison?
Well, some have been released because of enormous pressure, but I will mention that hundreds of them are still rotting, languishing in jail. When they release 5 people, they abduct 10. And please underline the word abduct, not arrest, but abduct. You must have seen recently when a world-renowned author was abducted because he annoyed the son of dictator Museveni and was whipped slave trade style. He had to run out of the country. So that's the situation in Uganda. When they release one, they abduct two. That is how we have been moving, and sadly that's how we continue to move.
Where are the human rights actors in Uganda? What are they doing to secure the release of those you allege are imprisoned? Because these are some of the human rights violations if you made.
I will tell you that most, if not all, dictators read from the same playbook. The first thing they do is to co-opt and compromise all institutions. They pick sycophants and put them in positions of responsibility. Our constitution provides for the Uganda Human Rights Commission, but the Uganda Human Rights Commission, is run by regime apologists. Just recently, after many innocent members of our party were abducted by the military, tortured to near death, we showed them to the world with terrible wounds of torture. However, the head of the Uganda Human Rights Commission said that the media is exaggerating torture, torture cases. Now that is the situation where you have a head of the Uganda Human Rights Commission looking at torture but calling it massage. What more would you want me to comment on that?
Let's move to your members, the NUP MPs. Are you impressed about the performance of NUP MPs within the parliament? Your members.
Thank you very much. When we were sending those comrades to parliament, we made it clear that this is not a normal parliament, and therefore they were going to parliament to use it as another front to push the struggle for freedom and democracy and the respect for the rule of law and human rights in Uganda. And I'm proud to inform you that so far, so good with them. But again, on the same note, I will inform you that 2 of NUP members of parliament have been in prison now close to 6 months for crimes that were, trumped up, and now they are languishing in prison. And that is the Honorable Alan Sewanyana and the Honorable Muhammad Sejirinya.
You contested in the just ended elections in Uganda, and one of the main candidates that gave a very tough time to the current president, and you claimed that you had the solutions to the problems Ugandans face in the country currently, and you also alleged that you won the election. What are the plans do you have for Ugandans in terms of lifting Ugandans from abject poverty to a better living condition, which you claim that they are living in the country?
Thank you very much. My brother, being lifted out of poverty is a basic thing, I would say, for a country like Liberia. But in Uganda, the first desire that we want is to be human beings. My number one desire is to see myself and my people lifted, not just out of poverty, but out of slavery. In Uganda, we are still living like slaves. We want, first of all, to be lifted out of slavery. And the plan to be lifted out of slavery is to awaken all Ugandans, especially the young people, who are the majority. I mean, more than 85% in my country are younger than me. So our desire is to be lifted out of slavery, because General Museveni has enslaved an entire population, 45 million Ugandans. Before anything, we want to stop being slaves. And after being slaves, then we can forge another way forward.
at the election in the country, there are many persons that supported you and they died in the process because of some other reasons. What are you doing as the head of NUP in Uganda to seek justice or to get justice for those of the people that got killed in the process?
Well, let us be honest and clear here and call everything what it is. Many people were murdered on the orders of Museveni and his son Muhoozi. What are we doing to seek justice? We cannot find justice here in Uganda because the entire judicial system is suffocated. So we have been making efforts all over the world, and this, what I'm doing right now, is yet another effort to create as much awareness as possible. We want to hold accountable all the bodies, all the organizations that we are part of, the East African community, which we know that has largely been silent on the plight of oppressed people. It is sad to see that even the African Union seems to be a club of presidents instead of an organization that is supposed to seek redress for the problems of Africans. And we are reduced to highlighting our challenges to the international community. General Museveni, like many other dictators, called those that challenge them internationally as international puppets. But these are the only options we are left with. We have petitioned the International Criminal Court and taken General Museveni, his son, and all those murderers that are masquerading as security operatives in Uganda. We have taken them to the International Criminal Court, and we are hopeful that as day follows night, we will get justice.
Give us your vision for Uganda. We're going to give you some time, and we want you to explain how to the...
I'm sorry? Am I on?
Hello.
Am I on?